Welcome to Awakening You channel. If you appreciate what we do, please support us. Thank you. Dear ones, I am Archangel Michael. Today, we will close these topics related to the soul and feelings. Today I'm going to talk a little about another aspect related to feelings. One thing I've been saying here for a few days, you already asked me, so it's worth talking about: family. What is the family, seen from above? Let's imagine the following, that each one of you were released into the world, had no ties to anyone. Each one was an independent and isolated being. What lessons would you learn? Maybe survival lessons, nothing else, because you would be isolated, you wouldn't do anything with anyone. So just survival itself. There would be no lessons to be learned. So in the world, you were organizing yourselves, in groups, first, not that this was the sequence, I'm just giving an example. In order of importance, you have acquaintances, those you pass on the street several times and come across the same person, then that physiognomy is marked in your mind. These are people you meet on transport, they find it when they go shopping, they find it in various ways, but there is no type of contact. There is only eye contact. You recognize the existence of that person, without having any ties to them. But that person is part of your memory, it is part of your brain, of your memories. So I can say that that person has a connection with you, because you already recognize them. No, you don't absorb anything that profound from that person, but a connection has already been created. Not that from now on you are going to walk around looking down, so as not to create a connection with anyone, because, don't forget, you are all connected. They are just very tenuous, very thin connections. So within the order I'm putting it in, the connections become stronger. Likewise, those people you follow on your television. You get to know those people every day, because you watch the same programs and they appear on several of them. Indirectly, you create a connection, because your brain recognizes that person. Just like the one you cross every day. It's the same type of connection. Many times you create an even greater connection, because you have that adoration for that artist, and you start to follow him as if he were a god. Interesting. Very interesting. You idolize human beings. Truly, the human mind is amazing. But continuing. Then there are those people that you sometimes cross paths with where you live, they are your neighbors, you exchange greetings, which is a connection a little stronger than those others I have already mentioned, and the more intimate you become, the bigger, stronger this connection becomes. And then let's talk about work. You spend most of your day there. It's almost a second family. So the connection that is created with each of these is stronger than the others, and there are those who are much stronger, because they are people you get closer to in the work environment, even becoming friends. So with friends, the connection is even stronger, and the longer the coexistence, the greater the connection. And then we can start to get to our point, which is family. What did I say to you yesterday? That the evolution of a soul is directly linked to feelings, what it experiences, what it emanates and what it feels. You suffer lessons all the time, with friends too, because that friend doesn't always act the way you agree. Many times that friend stops being a friend because they hurt you in something and you learned a lesson. So, lessons come from connections. The generation of new beings is a point. The greatest connection of all is created there, the connection between parents and a child. This is the biggest of all. And as I already explained yesterday, that soul that comes as a son, will go through lessons with that mother and that father, and that mother and that father will go through lessons with this soul, who arrived as a son. I'm not going to go into details here. If you have a father, if you have a mother, let's imagine that it's a perfect world. And even though his parents are more separated, he still has a mother and a father, even if you don't want him to. Children are not born in the air, they all have a father, they all have a mother. You often make a point of telling children that they were born out of nowhere, even those who don't know who her parents are, she comes from someone. It won't have the connection of coexistence, but it will have the genetic connection. There's no way. She will bring the little package of the one she doesn't even know and will never know, but the genetic connection is there, because it was his cell that she received, that child received. So there is no such thing as, I chose a father, my son will have nothing to do with him. Your mistake. It has everything to do with him, because that cell of his, which brought his genetic packages, will pass on to a child. And you don't know what you might bring in those little packages. Continuing. So, let's say, this is the main point of a family. And then that child has grandparents, uncles, aunts, cousins, and so on. When she is born she gains a lot, because she has a lot of people hanging around her. So what is the family seen from above? They are souls who decided to come, in that place, at that time, and through affinities they came together. When a soul is about to incarnate, what is said to the karmic council? Look, I want to come into a huge family. I want to have many, many brothers. I want a big family, a noisy family, a lively family, beautiful. And the universe conspires for this, a family that fulfills these predicates and that has similar energy frequencies. Very good. And he was born into a family like that, full of brothers, full of uncles, with a huge family. Then there is that soul who says, no, I am a very quiet person, I prefer to be born in a small, quiet family, in the countryside, isolated from the noise. Very good. And this universe organizes and the soul is born. Of course, added to this come those lessons. What does the soul have to go through? The karmic council knows all the lessons she has to learn, and which family can go through the same lesson, so that both can evolve. Ah, this one is more suitable, and it is in that one that the soul will be born. I already said it, but I'll repeat it, souls do not reincarnate in the same families. This is wrong. Because if that were the case, you would not evolve, you would be reincarnated in the same circle, repeating the same mistakes and no one would evolve. So you change places with each incarnation. It may happen, it is not impossible, that one day you will find yourself in a family with people who are part of yours, of your little packages now. Yes, it may not be impossible, but it is not the rule. It's not the rule. Then many people say, oh, I don't get along with you because I'm paying the karma of our last incarnation. No. In the last incarnation, person A had problems with the other person, and she had to come to this life to relearn the same lesson, but not with that person she had in the previous incarnation, it will be with another person who has the same lesson to learn, but another soul. So it gives you that feeling that you are repeating things from past lives. No, 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 no. As you usually say, there is a rotation. Every hour you are at one point. And that's what I already said, at the end of the day, you're all related, because the packages already crossed each other a long time ago. You all have packages from each other, because you have reincarnated in various places on the planet, and your genetic tree is very long. How many incarnations have you had? Think about this, there at the beginning of time, there in the beginning, there were 10 couples. These couples had children. The children had relationships with the children of other couples, and it was rotated. So we can almost say that all the people who were born from them, all of them, have practically the same origins, because at some point they crossed paths, the genetic line has crossed. So my brothers, why the separation? But this is not the case. That's not today's topic. So let's go. So families are formed. Each generation that is born finds a larger, upward genetic tree, and there are wonderful relationships, there are horrible relationships, there are so-so relationships. There are those families that get together every weekend, are extremely close, and are all very happy, because they are at such a stage of evolution, in which everyone has practically the same evolutionary frequency. So everyone resonates peace, resonates balance. So happiness reigns there. No, I'm not going to say that there weren't those small problems inherent in any relationship, of course they exist. If they were 100% perfect they would have already evolved, they would no longer be incarnated. But there is a balance, in which most of the time, they are emanating love, they are emanating unity. There are, on the contrary, those families that are every man for himself. Everyone in his house. Then when someone dies, everyone finds each other. Ah, how long? Life is very busy. And then comes that list of excuses you usually make. All false, because in reality you really didn't want to see that person. Be truthful, please. Then when you find it, it's that emotion. How much falsehood? What you wanted most was to keep the person away, that's why you didn't get together. But when you die, you have a commitment, right? To say goodbye to the one who left. Then everyone sees each other, everyone gets together. Beautiful existence. Beautiful family. Why is this all? Because one is angry with the other, one doesn't agree, and keeps swallowing, then one is jealous of the other, one has a better situation than the other, and then he thinks that the one who has a better situation has an obligation to help him, as he doesn't help, then he is no good, and so on. And so on. The reasons are countless. So you can see that there are all types of families. It's family in name, surname, nothing more, because in union, they are more united even with many friends than with family. Why does this happen? Because the degree of evolution of these souls is not the same. So there is an energetic dissonance. Those that are more evolved usually don't get along very well with the rest, because the very structure of the soul keeps it away so that it does not become contaminated. No, do not be angry with your souls. This is normal. The soul is evolving, the soul is doing a magnificent job of evolution. Then you get together with those family members who only know how to complain, who only know how to say bad things, who only know how to lower their vibrations. Why is that soul going to join them? So she stays away. Leave it to get together when someone dies. And that's simple. Begin to understand that each soul has a path. That's what I've been trying to tell you every day. It's not because of your family that you have to get involved and maintain the vibration they are emanating, since you're up there. Oh no, they are my family, so I will live with them, even if they emanate bad things. It's a choice you have too. But don't forget, that you have a soul and higher self, which will not agree with this at all. That free will is respected by us, what your higher self decides is decided. He will start to create situations for you to separate yourself from this family, because it is not good for you, you're not seeing how bad you're doing. So my brothers, that's it, that's where families live, who call themselves families. Taking advantage of this topic, and what I just said, I'm going to do a small aside. I just said here that free will exists for us, respecting the soul, but that the higher self is the one who controls what happens to the soul, with the soul that is incarnated. Many may be thinking, but wait, when the soul decides to follow the wrong path, what does the higher self do? He tries in every way to get this soul off that path. Do not think that it is an easy decision for the higher self to give up that soul. He tries, at all times, to return the soul to the path of evolution. But there comes a certain point, when that soul, that peace, is already so permeated with negative feelings that the higher self gives up in the sense, not of abandoning the soul, because he will never abandon it, he will always try to bring it to the path of good, but that soul begins to attract to itself, everything it is emanating. And then the work of the higher self ends up being worn out, because it can no longer make that soul see that it is wrong, and then it respects the soul's decision. But whenever he can, he tries to turn Alma back to the right side, he tries to return Alma to the path of good. It is tireless work, but he knows that it will be difficult for him to make this soul return to the path of light. It is not impossible, because many repent and return to the path of light, through the attempts of the higher self. But the vast majority don't. So it's the same path that we already told you about. You choose a path and we accept it through free will. Then the higher self allows you to live in that moment, so that you understand that you are wrong. But every now and then he tries to bring you to your senses. This was the one apart. Another thing I want to mention, since we talk about family. Many of you give absurd importance to the name. In the past, this was a status symbol, so and so is from the X family, so it's an important family. Fulano is from the Y family, this family is really bad, there's nothing important about it. Interesting. Very interesting. When you die, do those in the important family decompose differently than those in the bad family? No, everyone dies the same, everyone loses the human carcass. One day or another, you lose. I can even understand that often those who are more important, who have more financial conditions, often manage to prolong their health, precisely because they have more conditions, from that family that doesn't have it. I agree, but in the end everyone is equal, and before our Father or Mother God, everyone is equal. Remember, we don't see body, we don't see face, we don't see name, we don't see financial situation, we see energy. None of this is important to us. But back to talking about the name. How important is the name to the soul? Many of you have asked me about the name of the soul, which many call the avatar. Yes, the soul has a name, the soul is a multidimensional being within the universe, it has a name, because it needs to be identified in the universe. Like this? Does the universe know each being that exists? Exactly. This is not out of control. Each soul that is created receives a unique name. This is why you often ask the name of the avatar of the soul, and we are a little reluctant to answer, because two souls can even have the same name, visually, for you, they're within the third dimension, but for us, each name is a different energy, and is pronounced differently. So why keep telling you the name? I can say that one avatar has the name A and the other person's avatar also has the name A. And then you will ask yourselves, what do you mean, two souls with the same name? But for us, that A of the first soul has a different energy, it is not pronounced like A, nor is the other one. For you it is an A, but for us it is not. Then each soul receives an energetic name, which often has no pronunciation in their language, because they are names created by our Father or Mother God, and are not repeated. Each soul has a unique name. It is as if it were a document of the soul throughout the universe, where it is found, when you want to find it, because everything is catalogued. I'll say it like this so you understand. Let's say that there is a large database in the universe, and that all souls are registered there, and where they are, it is marked, and every piece of every soul, in the same way. Many with their mouths open. That's right, my brothers. So you can see that that name is a very complex name, which sometimes comes out as an A in your language, but it is not an A in the universe. It has a whole structure, so it cannot be duplicated, the soul is unique. Very good. So, you here on the planet and on other planets too, you name people, the beings that are born. And then you choose a bunch of names, using the most varied criteria possible. Some choose it because that name demonstrates energy, demonstrates power, demonstrates superiority, others invent names that are highly complicated in every respect, in which the being who will receive that name will suffer a lot because of the name. But you don't think about that, right? You only think about satisfying your own ego. I'll use the name I invented, and damn whoever is going to receive that name, because he will suffer a lot for the name you gave him. But that's not important to you, right? You only think about yourself, they don't think about the other. Selfishness is enormous. So you create names, surnames, first names, a lot of stuff, to form the name of an individual, of a being born on that planet, on that star. This name transforms into energy in the universe. It is as if this planet also had a database, where all the names are placed and linked to that piece of that universal soul. And then you created the mechanism for changing women's names when women get married. Very interesting. What happened to the name that was in that database? Did he cease to exist? No, he did not cease to exist, it is he who exists. This was a device for domination, to take away the power of women, of the feminine being, the power of feminine energy. Because as she changes her name gets lost in space. And what happened to her name? So it's as if that piece, that soul, had two names, or more, because this continues to prevail in today's world, and this only takes away the energetic strength of your name. So, in anything, any energetic work, that you do, never stop giving the name you were given when you were born. This is your name in the universe, the others are small appendages that were attached to that piece of your soul. It's as if they don't have much value, because your name is the one you received at birth. There are those cases in which those absurd names, which are given to children, are now allowed to change the name. Another problem. It is also another appendix, which is placed on that name, because the energetic name is that of birth. Be it good, be it bad, be it beautiful, be it ugly. It is your energetic name in the universe. Not that the others aren't worth it, they are valid, but they do not have the energetic intensity of the birth name. So whenever you are going to do anything, that is energetic work, that deals with the energetic, spiritual part of you, it is your birth name, never the current name. So understand, the problem you cause your children when you give them these names. The problem you women cause when you change your name. Yes, no, I'm not going to say here that this harms you, no, it's not that it's harmful, but that new name you gained has no energetic value for the universe, it had to be placed in that piece of your soul, because it now represents you, but it does not have the same energetic power as your birth name. Yes, it is by this name that you are recognized in the universe, that piece of your soul is recognized in the universe. But what about the repeated names? How is it? The repeated names, each one is linked to a soul. So for the universe they don't repeat themselves. What comes first is the name of the soul, then comes the name of the piece, then it will never happen again. And then many may ask, what about the power of the name? This is real. Yes, of course it is. I already told you that words have power, the names too, for sure. The name, that word that represents the name, because it is nothing more than a word, it has a charge of energy, we can say so that you understand, you have a crystal inside your body, and when you are named, if it is a strong name, that crystal attracts good energy, attracts the energy inherent in that name. So this is already a starting point for your journey. You are already emanating good energy to the universe through that name. Now if it's a complicated name that you invent, and that will cause a lot of problems, that's exactly why it causes the problem, because it is a name with practically zero energy. So he will attract all sorts of problems, precisely because of the weak energy he has. So be careful, my brothers. Be careful with the names you choose. It's not seeing a name written on a wall, and I'll put that there. Try to find out what it is. Suddenly you are using a name from another language that represents something very bad, but you thought that word was beautiful, and you gave it to your son. You've already condemned him to have problems, because that name won't attract good things. So see how important you are in your children's journey, starting with the name you choose. The poor guy didn't have a chance to choose anything. It is you who choose. And then they invent millions of things, and what's worse, they invent the wrong things. If you don't know what it is, you don't know what it means, try to find out, but don't keep putting in words that you thought were beautiful, but that you don't know what they mean, and puts it on children. You are already beginning the path of their suffering. Many are now regretting what they did. Now it's too late, my brothers. That's what I already said, what's done is done and can't be changed. No matter how many times your children change their name, that name is already in the universe and is not changed anymore. The others that come are like a nickname for that self, not the name was the one at birth and that's it. The rest is a nickname. So, I hope that everything that was said here this week was good enough for you to understand a lot. I hope I have touched your hearts, and that you reflect on those feelings that you actually have to change. Remember, actions are important for evolution, but feelings will speak loudest when choosing, when that ticket materializes in your hand, and you catch the train. You have gained a passage that is invisible for now, in which as you evolve, walking along this road of evolution, it will begin to materialize. Start to see the following: every time you do something wrong the ticket disappears, and then you start walking again, it starts to take shape again. And that's how it will happen until the final moment, when either you will have the ticket or you won't. That's what I said. Meditating, praying, staying balanced. Well done. Is it important? Of course it is, but what about feelings? How are the feelings inside your heart? First in relation to yourself, and second in relation to others. How are these feelings? Those are the ones, is that they have the most important weight in generating that passage. I am Archangel Michael. And I am here, with each one of you, trying to bring the truth and the path so that you can evolve.